Are you a storyteller? Anchor is the place for you. Whether you're doing a talk show or you're producing audio dramas like me, it's completely free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor distributes your podcast for you, so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
There's a belief about our world. A sort of folk belief. This planet must be some other world's hell. It's hard to say if it's the fire inside of the men and women on Endymion, or if it's the struggle to survive the scorched landscape, but the world fits that myth.
Now, I don't know what you'd say Virgil Stockwell had done to deserve a living hell.
He wasn't a bad man, but he never had much to show for the things he'd done. Former lay preacher, raised up in a community that fell apart, turned farmer with very little success with crops. The Stockwells toiled away in a quiet little shack far from society. That is, it was quiet all until a man in a gleaming white suit rode up in a buggy, stocked with elixirs, potions, and fraud. The motorized wagon had been through a few years of traveling and swindling, usually taking Sylvester Uncton to and fro to make money enough to keep his shoes spotless and fresh to cover the holes in his socks.
Put him in the clouds, sir.
Whoa. Hello there, young lady. No need for the plasma rifle.
Nor your sun flare pistol. So you can go on ahead and drop it there and kick it to me, stranger.
That's not necessary now. Can't we?
Pris, now put that gun away.
But, Dad, he was trespassing.
Well, forgive him his trespasses and get on back inside now.
Well, proper howdy, mister. Thanks for calling off your armed guards. The suns sure are shining today. Sky's almost so violet you can't see Hester.
Well, you'd have to forgive my daughter. She's not used to any sort of company. This is big sky country. Some days when the temps are right, she likes to sleep out under the stars. She's a nuisance to the porcupines with that plasma rifle. What's your name, stranger?
Sylvester P. Uncton. Uncton and Company at your service.
You have a company.
Well, not apparently. I'm a one-man sort of business, here to aid in a diverse range of capacities.
Oh, and I guess you think I'm buying.
Well, I've heard a great many folks out here in the valley have been lamenting the fact that crops aren't growing at all. No rain, no nutrients.
And you can fix that?
I'm a hydrosophist.
A rainmaker.
Well, that'd be the vernacular term, yes. Because the moons are in triangle, it's the right time for such a venture. You see, I learned this during my visits to Bevanata, an interesting little planet where the natives have a lot of tricks up their many sleeves.
I don't think you're going to get any business around here.
Now, I know what you're thinking, but I assure you, Mr.
Stockwell. Virgil Stockwell.
Listen, Virgil, I can help you. I am an educated man, and I have been across the stars, learning, finding my way.
Bumming your way, I'd imagine.
Well, you are a shrewd one, sir. But the point is that I've studied with the best of them. I've also become wise to the ways of the world, and I'm not here to dupe you. I have a lot of respect for the people of this valley. It's a dream, you know? A dream I'd take a part in if I could. To settle in a nice valley just like this. Nobody to bother you for miles around. I know what you know. It's easier to love your neighbor from a distance.
Mr. Uncton, my problems are my own. I'm a private person, and I'm quite sure you're going to leave here with just as much money as you came in with. Not practicing any of your alien voodoo on my crops.
Sir, that's not... Oh, well. You know what? I'll make you a deal. How about I give you 1 complimentary dose of my original Dr. Uncton's crop cure and root invigorating solution? I can leave you with my call code, and when you find yourself completely satisfied, I'll be waiting for your next order.
We don't have a caller.
Oh, I see. A primitivist.
No, not that.
Yes, I see. Virgil, could I trouble you to come inside and get a drink? It has been such a long ride, and my water supply is growing rather low. I'd be quite grateful for such a philanthropic gesture.
Yes, come on in. This is Mr. Uncton, Tara.
Mr. Uncton, how do you do?
I'm well, and I would say I'm better for the sight of such a fair lady, but then I think such a delight deserves more than such dry and worn platitudes.
Well, that's quite kind. A man of the world like yourself must learn a lot of ways to feed people statements that are just enough truth, just enough bunk, that they come back for more.
You all do know how to make a remote hideaway a home now, don't you? Couple beds, a few doilies, quilt I'm sure the missus made.
Well, there are ways to pass the time out here.
A happy home. How did you 2 love lizards meet?
Years ago now, I was a ranch hand working with the animals. The snout beasts were my favorite.
Ah, the macrochinias. Those are some gangly, homely choices in fauna. They're useful as far as fossils go.
Yeah, they get you around, which is why they cloned them. Looks like a bizarre cross between an elephant seal and an okapi.
Ah, look at this. You've got a lovely pocket watch.
Now, we'd rather you not.
Well, then, all right. No harm meant by it. So, as you were saying about how you first met, do you have other children aside from your charming and intimidating young daughter?
Oh, well,
No, Pris is our only child.
Dad.
Priscilla.
Well, children can be such a fulfilling part of life. Or so I hear. Either way, a statistically expensive part of life.
But yes, Tara was the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'd move heaven and earth for her.
Young love. I've been there a few dozen times. Anyway, I must be going. I've got tonics to sell.
Sneaking a bottle of some particular oil or another onto the table, Uncton departed. It didn't particularly matter which one. They'd all have some sort of effect, but there was no way to tell, given the lack of lab trials. Uncton climbed into his buggy and rode away.
Now, why would you have a man like that in our home?
It's all right. He's fairly harmless, and pleasant to say the least, but harmless.
Do you think he suspected anything?
The way you talk, as if we'd have been better off to let Priscilla disintegrate him.
No, dear. It's just that one man shows up, finds us isolated. There isn't a family as tech-free as us in the whole valley.
That didn't concern me most. He said something about the crops dying in this territory, about the problems growing. I think our worst fears are finally being realized, Tara.
It's falling apart, isn't it, Endymion?
I think it is.
I didn't want it to be true. I thought it was all just bad luck.
It's okay. Come here. I wanted this. All this. For our children. For our son. But now...
I know you did, Virgil. But our daughter could have done just as good of a job. She could have. But I know you wanted to give them this life. A life at last.
First the mines took our boy from us. Then the thing that caused them to collapse is taking the legacy I was building for them. The world's coming apart at the seams.
What are we gonna do, Virgil?
We'll get Pris and we'll take off. Somewhere. Something different. They've always talked about Sunspring like we were dreaming about Atlantis or Shangri-La, like it was just a dream. But now, let's do it. Let's go there.
Are you serious, Virgil? All the way to the planet Selene? The rolling prairies, the colors.
I do mean it, dear. We're gonna go there. Fine.
What is it?
On the table. It's missing. The pocket watch is missing. That beady-eyed...
Virgil?
Grab me my gun, Tara.
The buggy was still in sight and returning at rapid speed. Virgil aimed for the wheel, but then realized there were bigger hunters overhead. As Tara rushed from the house, the buggy exploded before their eyes.
Ah! Run! Run for your lives!
The slimy Mr. Uncton had leapt to clear the blast and now ran for the little home of the Stockwells.
Ghost Riders! Run for your lives!
Pris, Tara, get back inside. In the bunker, now.
Ghost Riders? Out here?
Everyone, in the bunker, now.
As the small fighter vessels regrouped, Uncton raced to the door of the Stockwells. Virgil turned to face him, beginning to close the door in his face.
What makes you think I should let you in here?
Because you're a good man. You're a decent man who doesn't leave people to die. Despite the fact that he may be the reason a bunch of Ghost Riders were drawn to your property. Please, Mr. Stockwell, I'm at your mercy. I will do whatever you want, get you whatever you need.
Such as?
A ship ride off this planet.
What's that?
A ship ride. A whole caravan of ships will be landing in Starshear Rim in a matter of weeks. I can secure you a place on one of those ships so you can leave this crumbling rock.
Get in the hole now.
The blast would continue falling, searing Stockwell's already dry and empty fields. Deep craters bellowed putrid black smoke.
What in the world did you do to those Ghost Riders?
I may or may not have sold them a massage oil. Not an original product of mine, of course. I'm not really liable, but how can you reason with the mob? And this massage oil for the kingpin, or queenpin, rather, who lives a life of luxury. You would not believe it. Anyway, it was intended for an unbelievable relaxation.
Uncton!
It may or may not have paralyzed her. I mean, the fine print was all there. Vinette could have read it herself. I mean, of course, now she can't because she's bedridden and can't use her arms. Yet somehow she controls a criminal empire. I don't know how some people make the time. But then again, I could have furnished her with another favorite of mine, Dr. Uncton's cure-all wonder drug. Perchance could I interest you all in a vial of this panacea?
Uncton, you are unbelievable.
I prefer incredible, but most would say untrustworthy. But still, that's rather bold coming from someone who lives out here with no devices other than weapons and has an industrial-grade bunker beneath his shanty. Impressive. What is the family Stockwell trying to hide?
Now's not the time you want to get unfriendly with me, Uncton.
Very well. I guess if we're waiting it out, I'll be over here napping.
The little home of the Stockwells wasn't much to lose. They'd kept most of what they had in the bunker itself, and they often lived out of it. The bunker camouflaged with the crater the Ghost Riders left of the building. It would be a matter of waiting it out. When the Ghost Riders were satisfied they had pulverized their target, they deserted the waste-laden farm. The Stockwells and Uncton would come to the surface and survey the smoky landscape.
Mr. Uncton, you've sealed our fate in having to leave this planet. Now you're going to fulfill your end of the deal and help us get off this world.
Yes. Oh, yes, of course. Virgil, I wouldn't think of flaking out.
Marion's the closest town. We best head off then. Get water and food from the bunker, everyone.
Yes, about that. What will we be riding?
We won't be. We'll be walking.
Well, I suppose I could stand to lose a few pounds. Make it less satisfying for birds when they eat me. My stars, man! What's that for?
It's time for you to return what you've taken from me.
Mr. Stockwell, I can assure you.
Don't start babbling again. Just give me what you've taken. You should be glad you picked the right man to rob. Not the sort of man who's going to serve you up to the buzzards and worms and skunk apes. This planet's people should have taught you a lesson by now.
Now you know I'm very good about these things. Very good at surviving.
Right now, you're a survivor just because I'm not a killer.
Are you not? Or is it just because your little girl is right here?
It's not helping, no. But it's not as though I can send her inside while the men talk.
Very well. Your pocket watch. A very nice one.
Good.
Now what?
The mountains are ahead of us. This lifeless valley can finally be behind us. Now we walk.
They traversed the Calliope mountain range,